Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome along to Inverclyde Council Education and Communities Committee. This is the communities part of this meeting. So this meeting has been held remotely and also in person and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcast available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and Data Protection Act 2014. We broadcast and record council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during this process will be retained in accordance with the council's published policies available through the council's website. Members of the council are reminded that they should follow the council's established protocol meetings, including the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meetings, which may also include members of the public who have received invites to the meeting. So with that, can I ask for apologies, declarations of interest and a roll call? Diane.
We have apologies from Councillor Armstrong with Councillor Reynolds substituting. Convener will now move to an attendance roll call before proceeding to the declarations of interest. And the following members please indicate if they are present at the meeting either in person or remotely. Councillor Brennan.
Present in person.
Councillor Clockerty.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Daisley.
Present remotely.
Councillor Law.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor McGuire.
Present remotely.
Councillor McVeigh.
In chamber.
Councillor Moran.
In the chamber.
Councillor Quinn.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Reynolds.
Present remotely.
Councillor Robertson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Wilson.
Present in the chamber.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Lynn first.
Yeah, Inverclyde Leisure. On agenda item 3, the Caddo Hill Community Garden.
Nothing on the chat, and also for myself for Inverclyde Leisure. Diane.
Sandra. Inverclyde
Sandra?
Leisure.
Yeah, Sandra's Inverclyde Leisure. So. Okay, can't see anything else in the chat. I think that's all the declarations of interest. Can we move along to item number 2, which is the community's revenue budget outcome at the 31st of December 2022. Ian?
Thanks very much, Convener. So this is the community's revenue budget report for period 9, which is up to the end of December 22. The current budget is 4.515 million, and the latest projection is an overspend of 15,000, or 0.3% of the total budget. So that means the expenditure has decreased by 55,000 since the last committee report. Section 3.3 of the report provides details of the main variances responsible for the projected overspend. The proposals for this report are noted in section 4, and that's namely the overspend of 15,000 is more than offset by the underspend for the education part of the committee, which will obviously come later in the agenda. So committee are asked to note the projected overspend of 15,000 for the 22-23 community's revenue budget, and note that this is more than offset by the underspend for the education part of the committee, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Kirsty first.
Thank you. I was just wondering if there's any update on extending the retail officers available in the Watt Museum, just to sort of offset that income shortfall.
Tony, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no, it's not that we're not any further forward, but we are looking at the options to make the retail experience a bit more favourable. And we've got a new cultural services manager starting, and I'd be keen to hear what her views are and how we progress this. So I'll keep the committee updated. and hopefully once we get that, I suppose, improved offer in place.
Okay, Kristen. Lynn?
Yeah, thanks. Under 3.3D, it was just the over recovery of income for Stoke lets. I was just looking for some commentary on that. So where do those additional lets come from? The type of activity taking place? Thanks.
Through you, convener. The majority of the income is for 3G pitches at the schools for football and various other sports. And historically, out with the COVID period, historically, we've had an over recovery on this budget.
And I'll invite Hugh in to comment as well, Hugh.
Yeah, for yourself, convener, very similar to what Ian says. Is a over recovery of higher of the outdoor pitches, which has been increasing over the years, and obviously we are looking at going forward. Obviously, as you're aware, there's a saving put in from taken in December about that. So we are looking at how we can utilise some of that money coming forward to help with the saving that's been taken going forward.
Okay. Lynn?
Yeah, great, thanks.
Any other questions? Nothing in the chamber, nothing online. Can we agree the recommendations?
Agree.
Move on to agenda item number 2, which is the capital programme progress and asset related items. Hugh, would you like to start with this, or will I go straight to Eddie?
No, I'll start with it, convener, if that's okay. Okay, afternoon everybody. This is the capital update report. So the capital budget is 3.590 with a projected spend this year of 1.236 in 22-23, with a net slippage of 1.82 million, which is 48% of the budget being reported. Appendix 1 gives you full details of the capital spend so far in this year, and that money will carry forward into next year. Some of the projects, as you can see within the body of the report, and from following 3.5, Lady Alice Bowling Club is now complete, and we are expecting just to pass that over with some legal details that we have to do through the part of the lease at the end, before the end of March, and that will be complete. Indoor facility, tennis facility, just for everybody's noting, again, it was an agreement of committee that this would not perceive in the future, and now all stakeholders are aware of that, and the decision's been taken, and we're still working with Sports Scotland and other partners to look at the future, but that will be now coming off the capital report going forward. Within the pitches asset management plan and the life cycle, as you know, it's been agreed in September 2020, Education Committee agreed a programme of works. This will still continue, and Eddie's team will be looking at what that means going forward. 3.8 is the waterfront leisure floor. Again, the contractor's now appointed a structural engineer to assist the design process on that, and they're working away in that, and now it's reckoned that the instalment should be in quarter 3 2023. Eddie will obviously have any other questions for Eddie on that, if anybody would want to do that. 3.9 is the update on the King George building community facility funded by Scottish Government regeneration money. Obviously at the present moment, you see within the report is a bit of slippage on that at the moment, and that's due to some water surface issue within groundworks around the facility, and Eddie's obviously here to take any other questions on that report. I'm delighted also to say within the community partner projects that Craig Engelslow Centre is now fully complete, and final accounts have now been agreed, and that's a great facility for the area. Inverclyde Shed has now received the keys of the facility, and just some internal work to be done from them themselves, and there should be an opening in that beginning of the end of March, beginning of April. Partly branching out, as you know, is a £1.1 million project for ongoing work at that site. We've now received the tenders back, and it is showing an over cost at the moment, and we're working with the agent to try and reduce that cost, and our further details will be brought back to committee as soon as we have them. Just an update on the asset transfer work that we're still continuing to do. You'll see within that all the assets that we're working on are now either moving forward very quickly. Cardle Hill Community Garden legal team are about to just finalise that with release, and that should be within the next week or two, and that will be handed over to the group, which is a great news for the group. Happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, Hugh. Is there anything you want to add just now, Eddie, or do you just want to wait for questions?
Nothing. No, Hugh's covered everything. Convener, I'm happy just to take any questions on any specific projects.
So I'll bring Councillor Wilson in. I'll bring Councillor Wilson in first, and then Elizabeth. Sorry, Elizabeth, just come on.
Thank you, Convener. Hugh, Parkley, the two questions. Parkley branching out. It looks as though it's going to come in ahead of budget. Is this excess going to put them in any financial difficulties?
Hugh?
Through yourself, Convener, obviously the cost is over tender, so we've just received that back, but the agent's going through that at the present moment. Yes, at the present moment, there's not enough money in the budget to go ahead with the construction work, but we are engaging again with Scottish Council, Scottish Government, trying to see if there's any additional funding to help with that.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, where are you in discussions with Morton and community to identify suitable land? Have you identified any land, and where are we with negotiations?
Yeah, we've had a regular conversation with Morton community to look at, it's a facility they're looking for, and it's a community part of that. They're looking for a consultant, a centre more like. So we are in discussion around Crawfordsburn and other facilities. So that's ongoing at the present moment, Councillor.
This is Morton and community, not Morton.
Yes, Morton in the community.
Would Morton have any use of the facility if it's transferred to them?
Morton in the community, I'm not, it's Morton in the community we're dealing with. I'm not sure about that, Councillor. Something we need to check and ask that question.
I'd be grateful if you could. Thank you. Stuart.
Thanks so much.
Elizabeth?
Thanks, Convener. My questions on 3.8, the movement floor. It's good to see that progress has been made, obviously, because we've got a structural engineer that's been appointed, etc. But given that there's progress been made, I look back at the last report that we had, and it said that the last report that would be second quarter, that things would be done, and we've now moved on to third quarter. So I'm not kind of getting where there's no demonstrable delay built into the report that we've been given today. So I'm just wondering if there's an update on why there's a delay, given that progress has been made.
Yep. Through you, Convener, the progress is on ensuring that the design and build contractor meets their obligations to provide all the information. So they need to appoint the structural engineer, which they've now done. There is actually a partial draining of the pool tank happening this week to allow pull-out tests on the concrete. That is the last piece of work that's required to then feed into the final design of the floor itself. That then allows them to conclude that part of the work, and then they can put a programme in place for the manufacture and delivery. So that's why there has been progress, but I appreciate it has moved into a different quarter, and that's because they need to get all that stuff nailed before they can actually then put a manufacture slot in their workshop and then work out a programme for site.
I suppose coming on from that, Eddie, we be confident that this is going to be it this time, as far as we can be, that it will be quarter three.
So as far as we can be, Convener, I mean, obviously we need to see that information coming back from the design and build contractor. They're the responsible party for that. They need to put in all the information for review, and only then do they proceed to manufacture. So it's a process, it is a protracted process, I know, and because it is design and build, it's not the same as most construction projects where you issue an acceptance and they're on site within 4 to 6 weeks. This is a different process because there's a design element that is essentially the contractor's responsibility.
Okay, Elizabeth?
Just coming back from that, that's really helpful. Thanks, Eddie. It does provide a bit more sort of context as to why there is a bit of a slippage there. We do talk about this, and it is here every time we meet as a committee, and obviously that's important that it is. It's important that we get to see where things are. If everything moves as smoothly as it could, based on where we are just now, what should we expect to see in the next report? What stage should we be at the next time we meet as a committee, just so that I've got a kind of a marker already for okay, are we where we should be, or has there been yet further movement?
We should be at that point. We should have a programme that the contractor's working to. They should know the manufacturer slot and know when they are coming to site. And I think I mentioned previously, because I know it comes up every committee, and rightly so, it's a relatively short period on site when they actually start work, because everything, there's a lot of it is, you know, manufactured off site and brought to the site. So for the next committee, I would expect to know what the programme is and when we're actually going to be in the waterfront installing that pool floor.
Okay, thanks, Eddie. Elizabeth,
Thank you. That's brilliant, thanks.
Tommy?
Yeah, thanks, Convener. On the Lady Alice Bowling Club, I'd just like to place on record my thanks to yourself and to the Ruth and to all officers. Pleased to see it's now finished, and I haven't done it yet, but I'll look forward to going to the open day next month. But my question is on the party branch now. Is the reason for over the budget the inflation and workforce issues we've seen across the sector in the last year or so? And if so, can we get back to the RCGF to get some additional funding? Is that an option we've looked at? Because from memory, I think we did that at King George V, and maybe East Blackpool Street. Is that something we're looking at? So we get the real deal when everything comes to fruition. Thanks.
You all like to comment first on that?
Yeah, for yourself, Convener. Yeah, Councillor, it's about the construction costs. It's can obviously because of the current market at the present moment. We've already written to Scottish Government asking if there is any possibility that they could fund the gap at the moment, and we're waiting for a response from them.
Okay, thanks. I've got two online. Natasha, would you like to come in first?
Yes, I need to actually say that Elizabeth and David asked the two questions I was going to ask, and Tommy made the comment I was going to make about the Lady Alice Bowling Club. I was just wanting to say thank you very much to everybody who helped make this happen. I know it was a bit of a longer process than maybe what all parties concerned thought it was going to be, but thank you to everybody who did that. And it's great to see that the Craig End Resource Centre, everything's almost done for that. So thanks, Convener.
Okay, thanks, Natasha. James?
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I've got two questions. Firstly, on 3.9, I believe the Inverclyde Council made an application for the Scottish Government Regeneration and Capital Grant Fund this year again, and it was unsuccessful. Can I just get some detail around what that was, if I'm correct on that, detail around what that was and why it was unsuccessful? And the second question is around 3.13, which is the asset transfers that are ongoing, specifically Larkfield Community Halls. I just want an update, if possible, on that.
You?
For yourself, thanks, Councillor. The first question would be, yes, we had an application in to support Bank Street Scouts, 32 Scouts in Bank Street. Unfortunately, good thing it got through to stage 2 of the application, but unfortunately it was not allocated any funding this time round. The feedback that we've got from Scottish Government Regeneration Capital Committee was that they felt they needed a wee bit more work around the wider community impact it had, and also the impact to what it had on the wider community and other areas in that. So we are in discussions with the group at the present moment about how we look at that. There's a possibility that we could put that back in again later on in the year when it's opened again, but that was the key element back, and I've still had discussions with the group around that.
Can I stop you there, Hugh, and just ask James, is that okay, James?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Thank you. Thanks, Hugh.
Thanks, Councillor. The second point is that we're still in discussions with Youth Connections around taking on the overall site. We were waiting we've had very positive conversations. We were waiting to see if there was going to be any proposed savings around the Youth Connections core money that was coming from the council. But obviously that's not been taken this financial year. So we will start that conversation again with Youth Connections in the coming weeks.
Thank you. Okay, James?
Yeah, can I just have a very, very quick follow-up? And I know there was two parties involved last time, Hugh, if I'm correct in remembering the question I asked at the last committee. I'm assuming then that the other party is no longer involved in discussions, is that correct?
We haven't, for yourself, Convener, we haven't had more conversations with the other party. Before we do any asset transfer, we will be doing a full robust and asking anybody else if they're interested in anything. So that will go out to the public domain and see if there's anybody else interested in obviously taking the facility on. But once we do that, then I don't know if we'll get any more interest, but I think it was the Scouts that was interested in it from memory, but I think it's just about getting back and clarifying that.
Okay, thank you. James,
Great.
okay?
Thanks very much. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
I've not got anything else in the chat, nothing in the room, and just to reiterate both what Tommy and Natasha said, I mean, it is good when you get something that's been on the capital programme for such a long time, like Lady Alice, that we can finally see it come to completion, especially when you drive by it and you can see the building is now nearly complete. So again, it's well done to everybody. It wasn't easy getting us over the line on that, so I think well done to all our officers and everyone concerned, including the committee and the Lady Alice Bowling Club. And with that, can I ask to agree the recommendations?
Agreed.
Can we move to agenda item number 4, which is just the general community update report? Tony, do you want to start us up with that?
Thank you very much, convener. So this report is just providing an update on the communities side of the committee, and I've provided updates on some of the main projects and initiatives that have taken place since the last committee, including the early adopter after school service, which is up and running till the end of the month, and we will bring back future information on that about how we intend to try and sustain a project like that. Also, an update on the Warm Spaces, the Warm Hand of Friendship funding, and how and there's also a link there for CVS to show how the money has been allocated through CVS. If you remember, CVS administers this grant on our behalf. Also, the introduction of the whole school community approach to substance use project. This is a new project that the CLD team are getting involved in partnership with HSCP about early intervention and trying to delay the onset of substance use in our schools. Also, not a link, but just an introduction, I suppose, that the community food growing strategy is going to the next meeting of the Inverclyde Alliance, and once agreed, I'll bring that back to the committee and provide a link for members so that they can see what the strategy is intending to do in the content of that. Just, I suppose, an update on how we continue to support participatory budgeting. I know it's kind of got quiet for a while there around PB, but it was just to let you know that the team are still supporting other services in relation to PB activity. Also, just thought it would be useful to comment on the library's success in terms of its first aid accreditation, and also as part of the budget process, just to give information on the savings that take from CLD. This is to give more detail to this, the parent committee, around how we're actually making the savings within the CLD service. And lastly, we're asking committee to agree for the normal inflation cost for pitch hire. And I suppose just a point of clarification, it falls under the banner of pitch hire, but it's actually school lets and pitch hire as well. So I'm asking committee to approve the below inflationary increase of 5%, and Inverclyde Leisure, once agreed, will adjust their prices accordingly. So happy to take any questions that I can on that report.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Questions? Councillor Moran, Robert, and then Thomas.
Thank you. Before a comment, it's the Warm Spaces, Warm Hand of Friendship, and obviously there's been a lot of publicity regarding this, and I know a lot of churches have took up the opportunity for the funding and the run it. But yesterday I was up at Gibbs Hill Community Centre where I run one as well, and it was absolutely amazing to see the differences making to people's lives who be otherwise maybe in a house and maybe on their own, and there were people there with guitars and different things, and it's made such a difference to see that in action. And I encourage any member here, I'll go and talk to Councillor Ward after, to go up and see it in action, and just to see the big difference it makes to people's life. And it's not vast sums of money either, but it makes such a difference. I met two of my colleagues who used to work in the shipyard. I met a girl who I worked with, National Semiconductors, and it was great to meet them again. And they're doing that every day when they go there, meeting people and sitting in a warm environment, enjoying their company again. So I just want to say, officers and everyone to say, fantastic. And I hope we see more members here go along and see the work that's carried on in the Warm Spaces.
Okay, thanks for the comments, Robert. Tommy?
Thanks, Convener. Just looking for some information on before and after school Kilmacombe, what type of organisation that is, and if they're operating Port Glasgow, are we duplicating our breakfast clubs on the before school part? Thanks.
Apologies, Convener, I didn't hear that question completely. It broke up a wee bit.
Yeah. Tony, I'm just looking for some more information on before and after school Kilmacombe. What type of organisation is it? And secondly, if they're operating in Port Glasgow, is there a duplication with our breakfast clubs on the before side of the equation?
Okay, so the Basque is, we're working in partnership with Basque because there isn't a lot of after school care facilities involved, and it was decided we would use Basque to work in partnership with them for this pilot. There's not a duplication in terms of breakfast club provision because the service offers a lot more than just the breakfast. It offers support to families as well, and particularly those who are seeking employment or are trying to get other jobs. So I'm confident we're not in competition with the breakfast clubs at this point because the offer is different. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Yeah, are they a charity, Tony, or they a private organisation, or part of what other organisation they are?
Right.
I think maybe Hugh have more information on that.
Yeah. For yourself, Convener, they're a limited company who has got childcare responsibilities, and they run a number of things. They run a breakfast club after school programme in Kilmacombe. They also run a programme in Wimsby for children in the Wimsby Inverkip area for an after school care. What they're working for us, as Tony says, is a after school programme. This has all been through procurement, and they won the contract for this part of the Scottish Government money for early adopters after school.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've got David next. David?
Yeah, my question was on Basque. You talk here about provision will last until 31st of March. And then you talk about by the end of January 20. How long does this contract last for, please?
Okay, so the current contract lasts till the end of March. It is a pilot programme, and it's there to. We got the funding from Scottish Government to try and design or co-design a particular type of after school care, and the funding was only available until the end of March. We're currently working with the Scottish Government at the moment to try and extend that, and we'll bring further details back, but it is a very, very short timescale. I agree with you, but it is there as I suppose a pilot and to assist the Scottish Government, like other early adopters, to design this type of out of school childcare.
Thank you. I know Basque, and in my view, from the comments of others, they appear to be doing a good job. Could I ask another question? You said that school hire is going up by 5%. Now,
yes.
In the budget, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the budget, we decided with regard to uniformed organisations not to give them free use of our schools. So does that mean that the hourly rate that is there currently will go up by 5% in April?
No, the budget exercise is in relation to a charge which is for the uniformed organisations, which isn't subject to the 5% increase, because the uniformed organisations would not be getting charged for the full let, they would just be getting a £10 charge.
£10 per hour charge?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can I bring Lynn in first and then Francesca, and then I'll go to the people that are waiting online, James and Sandra. Lynn?
Yeah, thanks. So I've got a couple of things. I don't know if you want me. I've got 3 areas, so I might just take them one at a time. Is that okay? I might get a bit confusing. So Just on the warm spaces, just to echo what Robert has already mentioned, I had the pleasure of going along and getting my lunch yesterday at St John's in Gourock, and it was pretty clear that this wasn't just about warm spaces for those that can't afford heating. This was about loneliness and isolation, you know, and I think it's well documented about the health benefits of not being isolated in your home, being out and connecting with friends and peer groups. It does more for your health than some of the other measures. So probably my question on that is, you know, about the legacy of this. So if it's not really about a warm space, it's about loneliness and isolation, then we kind of need it through the summer as well as the winter. So I was just trying to say, well, it's really working, it's really successful, and how do we continue that? And I just want to particularly mention, I know I'm mentioning St John's just because I was there yesterday, but there's a number all over the areas, and they are run by volunteers. And yesterday, with the pleasure of some of the pupils from St Columba's had come down, and they were helping serve. They were chatting to the folk along there, you know, older people mixing with younger people. So it was just a huge bit, a very simple thing, but a huge impact. So I just want to thank all the volunteers, because if it wasn't for them, a lot of this wouldn't be happening. So my question probably is, what is the legacy from there? If it's not really about the heat, that's been great as an added benefit, but if it's about lonely and isolation, how do we kind of continue this going right through the year?
I'm going to let Ruth in, because that's what I was asking her about the budget for this, Lynn, which is key, and it does go across sectors as well, so it goes across the CHCP, what you've actually mentioned as well, because I know that some of the older people with dementia go to these groups as well, but I'll let Ruth comment first of all.
Yes, from you, Convener, and thank you to the comments about that, because it has been a huge success, and actually it shows that we were on the right lines at the very beginning when we called it the warm hand of friendship rather than just warm spaces. And the advice we were given by several sectors was this was going to be more than just a warm space. It was key the activities that were involved. As you know, that we got to the end of the allocated funding, and also HSCP has allocated more funding, and CBS are running that on our behalf. We also now have to look at what the anti-poverty funding will do going forward, and certainly we've got officer groups looking at that to make recommendations to policy resources. What we'll do is take the comments from the committee in mind when we're making those recommendations.
Great.
Okay, that one, Lynn, you've got another couple.
Yeah, great. So under 3.3, the whole school community approach to substance use project. So I was just trying to unpick some of that. I mean, I know it's early stages, but I'm trying to establish like what's going to be different from what's there currently. You know, just to see that as we're trying something, not that what we're doing now isn't working, but clearly if we still have an issue with alcohol, drugs taken from our young folk, then clearly we need to maybe try something different. And it's really good when we get to agenda item 6, and actually looking at that Friday night, what they're doing up at Lady Octavia, and how, you know, instead of just maybe lecturing our young people on what they shouldn't be doing, because I think probably they all know what they should and shouldn't be doing, but it's maybe offering that alternative, something positive to do with their time. So it was really just to see it if that, you know, is different from what's already there, or is it more of what's already there? Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to let Hugh come in. Hugh, can I indulge in something, because it was one of the questions I had and Lynn's bent me through it. Can I vote on top of that about, we're seeing an awful lot about vapes with younger people now, especially in that ages of 14 to 16. So when you're answering Lynn's question, can you maybe say something about how we're doing with the whole vapes issue that's going along, which is probably linked to that a bit as well?
Okay, so it's okay if I take the Councillor Quinn's question first, and then I'll come back to vapes. I think the councillor, the approach will be different this time. I think the key thing is about building relationships with young people and not talking to them in a prevention education model. And the idea would be to do more stuff within, some stuff within the school, but more stuff within the wider community, and engaging through our detached workers, but also making sure that the workers we're bringing in for this input have a better understanding about what the young people actually do when they're in the community and the risks that they're taking. And I think it's coming from some of the projects we've already had across other areas about engaging more around the issue, but it's more about prevention and making young people understand the consequences, but in a way, in an informal way, around the best way to do it in a youth work approach. And I think the key thing for us is about setting goals for that, and we've got a meeting tomorrow with the partner agencies. I think it's not just a service approach, I think it's a partnership approach to make sure that we work with everybody around us to try and reduce the alcohol and drugs misuse in the community with our young people and the wider community. So we are looking at new ideas. We're looking at good practice across Scotland and also across UK to see if we could balance that out. But I think it's a centre approach and more engagement with the young people, but not, as you say, not talking down to them. It's understanding why. You know, it's also challenging adolescence and what that impact that's got on young people using substance misuse and also hanging about with their peers. So that's the whole idea of the model, and we'll certainly come back to committee once we get the jobs advertised. Hopefully get that done in the next 2 weeks. It's with job evaluation at the moment, and then get the job started for the new term in schools. But it is about just not the school community, it's the wider community too. Councillor Convener on the vaping, we've had a number of discussions with our colleagues in HSCP about vaping and what impact that's having, and I've got a meeting tomorrow afternoon with the lead for HSCP, Nicky Boyle, around health promotion, and that's on the agenda to see what we can do more to get out there and put more prevention around that. And I think that needs to tie into the drug and alcohol. It's taken away from smoking at the moment, and you'll see some of the stuff that's come out recently within the press and everything else and the impact it's having. But we need to have more discussions internally what we can do about that, but we are looking at it more in depth with our partners.
Okay, thanks you. Lynn, you've still got...
Yeah, no, thanks for that response. I think it's a huge mountain to climb, so really it can't rely on one area. It has to be a partnership because it is such a huge issue. It was really good. I was up at Branchton the other week and seen what they had created a sort of space for at night time for the kids to kind of come in and, you know, and I think it's encouraging them to do positive things and hopefully they'll choose the right path. So yeah, absolutely agree. It needs to be a partnership approach to tackle that one. So thanks for that response. So my last point, I'll be brief, it's just under 3.6, the library services. So just to congratulate the libraries, but also to specifically mention St Andrews First Aid. I think it's just to acknowledge that they too are, you know, run by volunteers. There's volunteers there. They do a great work in the community, delivering first aid training all over. And it's really just to put on record thanks to those volunteers, because when we actually look at the impact in our community by volunteers, I think the least we can do is thank them now and again. They really do make a huge difference to our communities. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. And I'm going to bring Francesca in next. Francesca.
Thanks very much, Convener. It's back to 3.3 for myself as well, so sorry about that, Hugh. I was really interested to see that section in the report here. As we know, it's a really sort of stubborn and ongoing problem for our communities, that is substance use and hard and problematic usage going on in adulthood, and we need to use every lever and tool that's at our disposal. I think it's ongoing in our communities, and I'm sure even everybody sitting around this table and everybody online's possibly got a personal story to tell about what somebody was telling me recently they think of as the lost boys and girls at Inverclyde who go down this path and then lives are changed irreparably. So there's detail in there about what we're hoping this will achieve, and we've discussed it at length already, so when there's something possibly there about how we might measure. You mentioned there, Hugh, that you're hoping to have staff within 2 weeks, maybe starting around April. So I'm wondering if that is indeed when it would start. And I see that the project is for 1 year. Are we classing that as a pilot there, that if it looks like we've measured it and it is achieving what Inverclyde needs it to, it will be rolled out further, the funding will be continued? So I just wanted to find out about that. And I think also just to put a mention that I've been talking about recently about modern slavery. We've got an image of what that means in communities and sort of ideas about and conceptions of what we think that is. But very often it could be young people in S24 who are encouraged to misuse substance and then encourage others to do the same and then possibly pass them on to friends. That I think it's something that we all need to be aware of. I'm sure the workers on this will be much more aware of it than me and ourselves. But just to see some detail like that 1 year thing and when it will start. Thank you.
Hugh, I'll bring you in first of all, and then if Ruth wants to comment, and then I'll bring Ruth back in. Hugh?
For yourself, convener, just to clarify a point, it's probably not going to start until the new term, which will probably be August. Time we get that in, it's not April. Time we get through our HR process, it'll probably be the new. I'm hoping to start in the new term of the school date. I think it is important that we work closely with our partners to have a meaningful project here. It is 1 year's funding and it's funded through the Alcohol Drugs Partnership, but obviously if we review that, again, we're working very closely with the Alcohol and Drugs Committee to look and see if it's possible if this could be funded again, but we need to look at what the outcome is going to be in the short term. So I would imagine we would be doing a review after 6 months to see how we're doing, what impact we're having, and obviously the strength for moving forward. But it is only a 1 year guaranteed underspend from the Alcohol and Drugs Partnership Committee.
Okay, and I think that's what Ruth was going to say. Is that okay, Francesca? Can I bring James in? James?
Thanks, convener. I've got a question around 3.4, which is community food growing strategy. I know that this is going to the Alliance Board and we don't have the full report as yet, but I just wanted to ask a question about our engagement with the RSLs on this. There's a lot of vacant or sort of undeveloped land around, and I'm specifically just thinking about my own ward, but I know there'll be examples across all of Inverclyde on this. Have we engaged with Riverclyde Homes or Larkfield House and any other RSL about potentially using this land as community growing areas?
Hugh, do you want to start that, or Tony? Tony.
Hi, Councillor Days. I suppose, yeah, through your convener, it's just that the strategy set out the sorts of things that we will be looking at to try and maximise the space for community food growing. So we would definitely, so there would be specifics around using particular assets within the strategy, but there's 4 priorities there which we'll try and achieve. But absolutely, it'll be whoever owns the land, we will be looking, if that's what community food growing is about, then we will be looking to local landlords or to see if the space can be maximised as part of the strategy. But I'll note your comments and make sure as the group's going forward that we do that.
James, is that okay?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tony.
Sandra?
Convener, I was just going to add accreditation vaping in 3.3. My question was to see if vaping would be included in that project. So he's already answered that. So I'm pleased to see that vaping will be included in the alcohol and drugs and substance misuse. Part of that was because this week a couple of leading supermarkets have banned, notice they banned it, which probably means that the manufacturers haven't withdrawn it. Here we've got nice flavoured watermelon, double apple, which don't conform to the legal limits that should be in vaping. The double apple one has an average of 3.6 ml of nicotine liquid when the legal limit is 2 ml, and the other one had over 50% of the legal limit for nicotine e-liquid as well. So children that manage to get these are being subjected to, in some cases, illegal limits of nicotine in these vaping products. So I'm pleased to hear that that will be included in this project. Thanks.
Thanks, Sandra. And that's my fears as well. And also the single-use vapes as well, that we know that are getting used constantly all the time as well. And we'll probably not know until the future whether or not it is less dangerous than smoking, or else whether we're actually building up problems for later on as well. So I agree totally with your comments, Sandra. Hugh, you got anything else to add in that? No? Oh,
Well, you know, from a professional point of view in pharmacy, you know, years ago, I think governments missed the boat on regulatory. If these vaping products had been regulated, you know, much earlier on, then it could be a different picture just now. It might have been that vaping products could have been included in the Quit Your Way products for quitting smoking. But they've just taken off and it's mushroomed and become a huge problem. Yep. So I do think that work in school is really important for this.
Okay, thanks, Sandra, and agree. Do we have any other questions or comments? No other can I just say on this? Normally, this could be 8 separate papers to the committee, so it's only right that we take a bit of time to go through these. So it is good that we're doing it all as a general update, that it does save an awful lot in papers and committee time, but it is good that we take our time over each one of these as well. So can I thank you very much for that. And can we agree with the recommendations, especially recommendation bullet point 2, and that is agrees to increasing the cost of pitch hire by 5% 2023-24.
Okay. And just to say that's including school boards as well, pitch hire.
And that's for the school
Just
board.
for the purpose of the minutes.
Okay. Okay. Do you need to actually change it on the recommendation?
I think so.
Okay. And we can agree to that then, and Ruth will sort that out. And when we go to agenda item number 5, which is freestyle swimming. Now, what I would say, there's obviously an appendix to this as well. I've been asked that we don't ask any questions in the appendix. If you do have any on public business, you do have any to do with the appendix. If we can wait for a private session, and I will let it take it then. And can I just say to the start, I thank my colleagues for taking part in the wee subgroup for looking at freestyle swimming. Hopefully we came to what was the best solution given the circumstances, but just thank you very much for anybody that took part in that. And I'll hand over to Tony to introduce the paper. Tony.
Thank you very much, Convener. And I'd also like to extend thanks to the working group as well for helping me pull this paper together with the options for free swimming. Just as a background to the free swimming policy, originally cost £180,000, and a saving was taken of £100,000, which left the budget as £80,000, and we've been trying for some time to try and work out what free swimming would look like to try and contain it as best we could within that lower amount. And I believe we've got, thanks to the work across parties, with an option to maintain free swimming, but perhaps not and not to the extent it was before. But I think the compromise that we have is that we will still provide free swimming on the main school holidays of Easter, summer and October, and traditionally the uptake for free swimming over winter is not high, so that's enabled us to also get an early bird slot between 9 and 11 on a Saturday and Sunday out with the holiday period as well. Now, that does increase, well, doesn't increase the 180, but increase the 80,000, and the policy would now cost 115,000. We have identified a potential, the shortfall could be met from releasing another post within the service. And we are currently working to undertake that, and there is an outstanding remit to PNR to give us permission to see if we could resource that through value for money. And as you said, the detail of that post is in a private part of the paper, so I don't want to obviously disclose any more information on that part of it, but I'm hoping that there is sufficient information within the report to allow members to agree that we move forward with this revised policy of free swimming from April 2023. Happy to take any questions on that.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I'm looking for any questions. No, nothing in the room, and I can't see anything in line. Can we agree with the recommendations?
We agree.
Thank you.
Okay.
We move to agenda item number 6, which is the community safety update. And again, that's yourself, Tony.
Yep, thank you very much, convener. Normally we would put community safety updates within the update report, but there's been quite a lot of work done with community safety over the past while, so we thought it would be important to put some of the work undertaking and get it noted in an individual report. So I provided information, just an update on some of the activities that the small community safety team within the service undertake. And so I suppose just one note I would say in terms of the community safety and violence against women strategy, that was supposed to be considered by the Alliance. It's not been considered at this meeting of the Alliance. So I will bring back a future report to this committee once the Alliance have agreed the community safety and violence against women strategy for 23-26. I'm happy to take any questions that anybody may have on this.
Okay, I'm going to bring Elizabeth in first of all. Liz.
Thanks, convener, for bringing me in. Just in terms of that, where we are in terms of that as a Alliance Board Chair, when we had the agenda, we kind of thought, I'm not comfortable with it necessarily being a separate, being a consolidated report. You know, that the violence against women strategy is significant in and of itself. And so we asked for it to be kind of looked at again. I just think that it is a significant issue that should be a subset of another report.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. I'll bring Lynn in. Lynn?
Yeah, it's pretty much down the same lines. I wasn't sure if that's one report or two, you know, so when I started reading it, I thought, is it two reports? Because I thought the violence against women strategy previously was a standalone. And obviously my ask is that we had commissioned that women's safety survey. So the ask is that the results of that survey feeds into the violence against women strategy as well, because I'd just like to see some of the results coming in there. So if that's agreed to separate, then I absolutely agree with Elizabeth that that's what it should be. And, you know, especially if the recent, you know, heightened concerns around women's safety, that to have a separate spotlight on that. You know, I know there will be some overlap, but it's a specific gendered issue, so I think it really should be separate. Thanks.
Okay. Robert?
I thank you. It's 3.3, you know, the Friday Night Youth Project. Recently I'd been up at Port Glasgow, where there's an awful lot of antisocial behaviour with young people, predominantly young people, in McDonald's in the taxi rank. And part of this antisocial behaviour is I suggested that we could try to get some diversity tactics in. So I'm really glad to see this has came along here. I'm not too sure that Lady Octavia Leonard Centre would cover all the antisocial behaviour we're seeing within Everglade. I think a lot of it's to do with the train, the frequency of trains. They can jump on the train, they can jump in Port Glasgow in 2 minutes, vice versa. We've had this for years. In the winter it's Port Glasgow, it's going into summer, it'll be Inverkip again. I'm just thinking, is there anything more we can do to try and stop this transport, the rubbish behaviour between towns and villages? And I think that the British Transport Police have a role to play in this. That they could stop it at source and stop going on these trains. And although I'm happy with what happens on the Lady Octavia, I'd like to see more of these centres rolled out throughout the whole of Inverclyde if possible. So if this is successful with the Octavia, I hope we can try and find resources required to put it in other centres, so all the young people there's somewhere they could go a Friday night, dinner at McDonald's or whatever, to cause antisocial behaviour and jump the trains. So I do think it's a great development. I just wish that we could have more of this.
Can I let Tony come in and ensure, if needed as well, really probably the two things is, do we have ongoing discussions with British Transport Police regarding travelling through Inverclyde? As Robert says, we know it's going to happen during the summer. And also, is there some sort of evaluation going to happen with regard to the Lady Octavia to see if it works.
Tony, you want me to take that one?
Yeah, on you go, Hugh.
Just on the antisocial behaviour, there is as you know, through the hub, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, with Police Scotland and partners looking at everything, and there is a plan every week for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday with our wardens, our youth work staff and our police colleagues, including British Transport Police, to look at all areas of concern and hotspots. So every weekend, on a Friday morning, we get a plan put out behalf from Police Scotland, and everybody, agencies on that, and it's, again, we resource that as best we can to get out the areas. Just on the point of the Friday Night Initiative, we're already running a Friday Night Initiative in Port Glasgow in the joint campus, part of McDonald's funding through sport, football. So we are running that, and also Inverclyde, the iYouth one is also open on a Friday. The reason Lady Octavia is because it's shown as a hotspot, because there is an area of the lanes or the cycle track just behind Lady Octavia, and that's shown as a hotspot for us. So that's the reason that in conjunction with the police and other partners, that we felt that we would do this time. It's short funding again. It came from Police Scotland's community fund, and we will be doing an evaluation at the end of that, and we'll feed that back once we know the evaluation on that. Hope that's helpful.
Thanks, Hugh. Okay, Robert.
Hi, thanks. Thank you.
Can I bring Natasha in? Natasha?
Yes, thank you. I have just a couple of, I suppose, one comment and two questions. So first of all, a comment on 3.3 about the Friday Night Youth Project. I know we spoke about vape early on, but I'd written down my question under this one. Just around, have the police started doing stop checks in local businesses like shops that are selling vapes to make sure that they're not selling to under 18s, since there's obviously local problems with under 18s having them. So I suppose that's kind of like something to think about when we're doing this sort of work, is are they actually doing their checks for that? And my two questions are actually on 3.4 and the two different strategies. So I can appreciate what Elizabeth and Lynn were saying about them being two separate ones, because at first I thought it was one and then I realised it was two as well. But my two questions on it is, for each of them, for the Community Safety Partnership, how often will we be given updates and progress? And on the priority outcomes for the Violence Against Women Partnership one, how are we going to measure us achieving progress with these? Because a lot of these things could be quite arbitrary. And do we actually teach about in schools the red flags, respecting relationships, how to identify things like gaslighting, to show young people that violence against women is more than just physical violence, it can be emotional abuse too?
Okay, thanks, Natasha. I'll bring in Tony first of all, and then I think Ruth can comment with regard to the corporate edge or the trading standards as well. So Tony, would you like to start off?
Sorry, I was going to mention the trading standards bit first. That's okay.
Your boss has beat you to
It would be Environment Regeneration Committee in terms of the enforcement team to look at the vaping and the selling of vapes to under age people. In terms of the community safety and violence against women strategy, it was an alliance workshop that actually agreed to bring both of these strategies together. So that's why they are now, but that's now why they're together, and we now need to go back to the partnership and say that they will be split. And the reporting for these strategies is normally done through the Alliance Partnership as well, and we will certainly bring any reports that have been monitored by the Alliance Partnership back to this committee for noting. Into two. In terms of the obviously through the PSE programme within schools, I can't obviously account, and maybe Ruth can come in on this, but obviously there are a lot of work goes in with pupils and in terms of youth services as well, about promoting positive relationships within school and also within youth services. I don't know if anybody else wants to come in on that, but
Ruth doesn't want to come in. She's putting it to Hugh.
It's just
the question. Yeah, Hugh.
Okay, for yourself, convener. We have a number of programmes in school. We've also got MVP, which is Mentors Against Violence project, obviously across all the schools, which is run in partnership with my own services, but also with the schools. And that's about a bystander approach to it. And mainly that is about challenging behaviour towards women. But it's also devolved a wee bit into a number of things. And these projects are still running across our secondary schools, which very successfully. And each of the schools are very aware of that and the partnership. We also train up trainers of staff across all the schools. And then there's a mentor approach with young people to take that on and work with their peers to try and challenge the behaviours towards women or any other gender that's suitable within that project.
Okay, thank you. Natasha, is that okay?
Yeah, I've just got a couple of follow-ups just on the vapes. Why is it trading standards? Is it trading standards that do the spot checks for like alcohol and cigarettes as well? It's just for whatever reason I thought it was police, so maybe I'm a bit naive there.
No, trading standards have got the responsibility for, police have got responsibility too, but trading standards will look at anything and it's illegal. And that's a partnership between Police Scotland, but if there's any underage sales, it's Police Scotland and the liaison officer for trading standards that go out together.
Okay, and then just two more follow-up points. One was just around, I'll look forward to seeing through the Alliance Board the kind of how they're going to achieve and progress. So kind of like what does success look like in these areas? So I'll wait for that paper to come. But on the PSE, I think I will ask offline just about, is there, as much as the MVP programme is good, just about actually educating people on what some of the signs can look like, rather than asking people to know what the signs look like so that you can almost defend somebody or try to support somebody from an outside perspective. It's actually about people being able to recognise inwardly of when these signs show up, because I know from personal experience sometimes it's a bit difficult to recognise those signs until maybe it's a bit further down the line. But thanks for your answers to all the officers, and thanks, convener.
Okay, so just a clarity on that, Councillor, that is the programme, sorry, maybe I never explained that right enough, but that is a programme that is about having workshops to look at everything with young people and for them to take that on board, and it's not just about the information.
It's not just about advocating for others, it's about understanding it. Oh, thank you very much, Hugh. Thanks, convener. Thanks, Hugh.
Okay, Natasha, can I bring James in? James?
Thanks, convener. Just a question around 3.3 again. With the work that's been done with the young people in terms of antisocial behaviour and specific areas, I know Councillor Moran mentioned McDonald's at Port Glasgow, things like that. Officers will be acutely aware that antisocial behaviour going into the summer and more warmer periods, it starts to move around Inverclyde and specifically towards Weems Bay and Inverkip beaches. Now, I've been in attendance of a number of meetings with British Transport Police, Police Scotland, other ward councillors, our own community wardens last year around this, and they've done some really good work. And I have to really praise the community wardens on this, actually. Some brilliant work from them. But I was hoping to get some clarity if we were going to get any preemptive work in terms of this evaluation, specifically around the transient nature of the antisocial behaviour.
Hugh, I don't know if you can comment.
Yeah, I can comment on that. We have a live action plan for the summer, which is a part of the community safety partnership like Tony chairs. And within that, there's a youth diversity, I can't remember the name of it, to be honest, sorry, plan which would look at every area of Inverclyde with Police Scotland, Transport Scotland and the wardens. And what we would do is that we would have a planning for the schools breaking off over the summer. That's led by Ross Skillian's team, and they are responsible for putting that plan together and taking that back to the hub and also back to the Police Scotland. And that work that we do over the weekends and obviously over the summer will be changed. It will be a 7-day plan, not just a weekend plan. But again, it's also about communicating that to the public and making sure that we have got plans in place to redirect young people the best we can. we've got to remember, obviously, some young people are out to have fun, but some of them are out, obviously, to cause some concern in the community, and it's about breaking that barrier. But we've got to remember that, so it'll be 7 weeks of holiday, but we can't do everything, but we'll try our best to have the plan, and I'm quite happy to, once that plan's updated for next year, for this summer, I'll be bringing it back, Tony can bring it back as a report for the next committee.
Thanks, Hugh. I'm going to bring Ruth in. Ruth?
Yes, sorry, my problems with my microphone. And through you, Convener, I would have to say, Hugh and the team and everyone in the Community Safety Partnership and the Hub are very, very responsive. It would be very easy just to move the young people on and move the one problem, but actually what they do is they look at the hotspots and they actually see what's happening. They also have the parent alert letters, so at least parents can be aware of where the young people are. And there really is a tremendous amount of work gets put into the summers and the weekends, just to make sure that not only are we stopping antisocial behaviour, but we're also looking at our young people as well if they are involved in risky or risk-taking behaviour.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. I'm looking for any other questions. Lynn?
Tommy's before me.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking to see Tommy first. Sorry. It's the brightness and lights.
He's been
I mean,
waiting for that.
Oh, has he?
we should just get tickets like they can sell.
On the 3.4, the Community Safety Partnership, I'm a big fan of Community Safety Partnership. I think they do a lot of good work behind the scenes, but is there a plan to bring back an annual report to look at what they've done, some data, and just to compare that against the outcomes which we've got against that? And the second question is on the violence against women. Tony touched on the answer, a similar type of thing. We get a report back to see if our strategies we're putting in place are working or not, and what we can do better or what we can change. Just some feedback to see so we can measure ourselves again on the community partnership and on the violence against women.
I'm going to bring Ruth in first of all. Ruth, you want to?
So yes, typically we would bring anything on the hub back to police and fire. So we're happy to bring it as part of the updates through the community safety. We've got the directors has got responsibility for that. What I would say about the hub is it's data protection. GDPR has not been our friend in this, and getting through just exactly how to share the data. It doesn't mean the good practice isn't happening and the data is shared appropriately, but when you begin to look at logs and who's the data owner, then it perhaps is a little bit more complicated, and we are continuing to work with the police through that. It's just a very, very slow process, I'm afraid. I've forgotten your second question.
Just on the violence against women, will we get a report back to assess the strategies, what we've done, what we can do better, what we can maybe tweak, just to see how we progress moving forward? And
again, that will be reported through the Alliance Board, so that it reports directly into the Alliance Board.
Okay.
But we have got a link, so we can always bring, just as we have done here.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Can I bring David in and Lynn? David?
Yeah, just really it's a follow-on from Councillor Moran. I quite agree with Councillor Moran and Councillor Daisley, who recognise that antisocial behaviour is really quite bad out there. And in my point of view, in my 15 years as a councillor, I don't think I've seen it quite as bad as it has been recently. At SPT, we have regular meetings with the boss of British Transport Police, and they, like Police Scotland, have been cut to the bone. There is not the resources. And getting British Transport Police out at the end of the line to Inverclyde is not an easy thing to do. So we rely very much on our community wardens and local police and our own officers to try and keep a lid on things. Thank you, Convener.
Yeah, which of course we are also cutting as well, so it's a perfect storm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lynn?
Yeah, I wasn't going to comment, but I'm sitting there and I thought, let's just go for it. So probably just an ask, when we're talking about the regulation, you know, the vaping and young people accessing vapes, I think it was mentioned before, it might have been a police and fire committee, about the online shopper, you know, where you can order. So that's clearly an issue with alcohol and also vapes for our young people, because it seems to be there's there's a loophole here that there's no control over who's actually ordering it and who's receiving it. So really it's just an ask if they're looking not just to walk into the shops, but they actually look at that online shopping facility as well, which is a concern. I think it's just the discussions around the youth, I'll call it youth gatherings rather than antisocial behaviour, because I'm conscious that it is a minority and not the majority. And from the year dot that youths want to get together in crowds and hang out with each other, that's not a new thing, that's been for forevermore. But obviously there is a close link, and I think it's probably back to the bit I raised in the other agenda item, that the taking of alcohol and drugs at a young age, you know, when you can't cope with that in large amounts, clearly links to the antisocial element part of it. So clearly there's a link between here. So it's probably just my ask that we're not dealing with these things in silos. You know, so if we're, you know, all that great work that we're doing with youth gatherings should feed into the schools and bringing it in when we're looking at people, you know, here's the consequences of the actions. So it's really just that we don't do these and that they're clearly linked up here. You know, get involved in a young age. I mean, it's horrifying because I've got kids, younger teenagers, and I hear the stories and I see the pictures, and it's actually from a safety point of view, it's really concerning where clearly young people are taking drugs and alcohol and not able to cope with the consequences of that because of your young age. So it is a real concern from a safety aspect. So clearly that is my ask, is that these things are linked up because they're all related to the same issue, I think.
Can I maybe put that to Hugh just to get that assurance that it's linked up, Hugh?
Yeah, through yourself, everything that we try to do around community safety and youth work is all interlinked. It's important it's interlinked because the issues that we're facing in the community is the same issues that we're facing in schools at times. I think the key thing for us online is, you know, is very important that we need to try and address that, and you'll probably see that with the Police Scotland's new plan for the area, and that's including a lot of work around interaction online and what's the issues we're facing through online issues, and that was discussed yesterday at the Community Police and Fire Committee. And I think it's important that we work together with the police and any other specialists on that, but making sure the young people are aware of consequences of an online too, and what they are ordering and everything else. And it has to interlinked. And, you know, through the community safety, the police hub, and obviously the stuff we do with our colleagues, our head teachers, it's important that it all comes together and we can record that, and we will do that, and we'll work very closely to make sure that everything is interlinking.
Sure. Okay. Ruth, you want to?
Yeah, just to build on that point, it has to be interlinked and it has to be continuous as well. I would love the position to be that we did one input to young people at the age of 13 and it just stuck forevermore, but that's not the case. We have to do it again and again and again. You know, a 13-year-old in a classroom is not the same as a 15-year-old in the middle of a night out where they may make different choices. So we have to be there, we have to keep reinforcing the message again and again and again, and the young people are asking us for it to be age appropriate, so we do have to keep revisiting it all the time.
Okay, do we have any other questions? No other questions? This is the sponsoring parent committee of the Police and Fire Scrutiny Committee, and I think on this agenda item, we've had a really difficult week and a half, 10 days within Inverclyde. There has been an awful lot that's happened down in our communities in Inverclyde over the last 10 days. I've got the chair of the Police and Fire and the former chair. I mean, we have had an awful lot of instances down in Inverclyde, from young people to tragedies in a lot of ways. So as a sponsoring committee, it is worthwhile just thanking everybody who's been involved in that, both from our end and also from, and I know the chairs of these committees will bring that up as well, but it's been a really difficult time. And I would also say as well, I'm really surprised at Francesca here. She's missed the opportunity. It's International Women's Day tomorrow. And Francesca's sick of telling me, Jim, you're more welcome to come along to Union Street for a wee. I'll let you do your final bit, Francesca.
That in gender.
Sorry, but well, there's actually, sorry, Jim, convener. I'm just interrupting because there is the Inverclyde Council International Women's Day event in the evening at the Beacon that all are welcome to, and so thanks to, I think, again, Ross Scullion and his team and Ruth for all the work they've done, and Lynn Quinn, Councillor Quinn, as chair of the Women's Forum, and making sure that I think looks set to be a really, really good event tomorrow night. So I think that's at 6 with a really interesting line-up there. With yes, some of the people there from Inverclyde Athletics Club will be talking about the responses to the Women's Safety Survey, the Women's Safety Charter, which is part of it. But yeah, we've got another event at the Lyle Kirkin Union Street tomorrow, a drop-in coffee morning that all are welcome to as well, from 11 to 1 bags.
And with that, can I bring... Oh, sorry, James, sorry for that. Oh, James.
Yeah, thanks. Just a really, really quick one, and I'm aware of time and stuff like that, but Councillor Quinn mentioned specific apps, right? Now, I just wanted to make everyone aware that I've been doing some work behind the scenes with officers and legal about a very specific app that's in use in Inverclyde that makes it very, very easy for children to purchase items that they should not be purchasing, and you would be shocked to know how easy it is. So I just wanted to just make comment on that it's an incredibly big risk in Inverclyde at the moment, and we can't downplay that at all. And it's really, really surprising how easy it is for them to hold alcohol in this app.
Okay, thanks for that comment, James. And with that, can I bring this part of the Education Communities Committee into the hall, and I'll see you again at 4 o'clock. So thanks everybody very much.